Okay, sociology and economics, take 3. Okay, so starting again, Dr. Ariala talking about sociology and economics. So in this chapter we get a broad overview of how sociologists typically or can study the concept called economy, or they look at economic systems. Some of the major economic systems that people are generally aware of, but usually not specifically aware of, meaning they don't usually know the specific definitions, are the concepts of capitalism, socialism, and communism. A lot of people, unfortunately, put some concepts like capitalism or socialism or communism into a negative category, partially because we have a history with those bad commie Russians, those red people who are bad, and we've had some conflicts with them, and so we tend to put our enemies in this negative or bad category, and whatever they're involved with becomes this bad thing too. However, concepts like capitalism, socialism, communism, they're just concepts. Concepts that people created, and as they are described in your textbook, they are more like idealized or pure, quote-unquote pure definitions, but really there is no such thing, because most societies have a mixture or a diluted or impure, if you will, version of these systems. But communism is just a concept. It's not good nor bad, evil, whatever, in and of itself. It's really how people interact in this system, what people's intentions or behaviors or whatever that have it be more or less positive for the people in that society. So so if you have kind of a negative idea about what socialism or communism or even capitalism is, maybe take a moment to reevaluate and step back from that, and then think about what are these, and is communism really this horrible thing? It's just a way of interaction, and it's a way for people to deal with transactions. So I don't think it's good nor bad. It's just kind of what people make of it. So and as your authors mention, most societies don't have a pure economic system. They usually have a mixture of them, and how we deal with that in our society is can kind of make the economic structure a beneficial one, a not so beneficial one. But again, in and of itself, these things aren't bad or something like that. And so, of course, sociologists, as do people in other fields, examine economic structures from theoretical perspectives, and so structural functionalists look at how systems work, economic systems function well, and how they may not function so well. So what are their functions and dysfunctions? And then conflict theorists look at who has power and control in economic systems, who doesn't, why, should it be changed, how could it be changed? And the authors of the text talk, they have some discussion about Marx and Weber, and they are two very well written about, analyzed, critiqued theoreticians, and again, they're just guys who, had some ideas, and they were fairly well fleshed out, but how well they have been implemented is another story. But we look at power and control using the conflict theory, And when I teach women's studies class, for example, we examine some of the policies, some of the functions and dysfunctions about how economic systems impact women and children especially, and why this might be. So the conflict theory helps us analyze power and control as it relates to sex and gender. And then the authors discuss corporations, multinational corporations. Again, I don't think these structures are good nor bad, but they do have an impact in our society and our planet. So how do they work? How do they interact? What kinds of transactions occur? What are the pros and cons of these corporations? And so sociologists examine them, conduct research to see how they impact people. Work is a very, very important topic because it impacts most of our adult lives. And so sociologists study workplaces, work environments, and people and how they function and interact in workplaces. And so we look at structures and management and organizations and how they function or don't function well, and who's in power and who's in control with the conflict theory. They have an interesting discussion about unionization. I happen to belong to a closed shop union, which has its pros and cons like everything. I don't have an option to be part of the union. I'm required to pay union dues and be part of it. And so I've got my own prejudices and biases about it, but I certainly get a lot of benefits from being part of a closed shop union. So again, unions are just structures that have been put into place to support workers, and some people think they're a really great thing, other people don't. I can see some pros and cons of unions, and so sociologists investigate unions, looking at the structural functionalist perspective, how they function well, how they don't function so well, as well as the conflict theory perspective. And so one of the, I've been listening to an audiobook that I highly recommend. It's written by a couple of economists. It's one of the main authors is Nouriel Roubini, and it's called Crisis Economics. I've been learning a lot that I didn't know about economics, and it's quite fascinating. So I highly recommend the book if you can get your hands on it, or get the audiobook and listen to it while you drive. So I think it's really helpful for me to continue learning about economics and especially what's going on in the United States, because there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and the authors of this book have already taught me a lot, and I'm not finished with it yet, about some stuff that happened recently in the United States, as well as some history about the economic systems here, and some of the things that the federal government is looking at implementing to try to rectify some of the really bad decisions that some corporations made. So encourage you to continue learning about it, because economy, as I said, economic structure impacts us all greatly, and the more that we can understand it, the better that we can make informed decisions. So thank you for your time and attention. Aloha.